Zach Lavine? In today's episode of Is This Rumor a Real Rumor, we're going to talk about Zach Lavine. And I'm also going to prepare you to parse through rumors this offseason and maybe, hopefully, be able to determine for yourself, is this rumor a real rumor? Anyway, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for all the support lately. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and hit that like button to help me out. This is just going to be a rambling video. I'm not going to edit it a whole lot, and I'm going to talk about Zach Lavine and whether he makes sense for us. And then, as I said, I'm going to try and prepare you guys. We tried to prepare you for the offseason with some CBA stuff so you know what's actually happening and why it's happening and what's actually possible. And then we're going to prepare you because a lot of people can't seem to parse through rumors correctly. Now, the first thing to know when looking at rumors is looking at who is leaking the rumor, because certain guys have a higher hit rate than others and certain guys are not to be trusted as much as others. Now, the Portland Trail Blazers being linked to Zach Lavine was brought forth by none other than Brian Windhorst, who I don't think has ever leaked anything that's come close to being true for the Portland Trail Blazers, so already that is a red flag. The second aspect you have to look at with any rumor is, does this actually make sense for the roster? Now, when discussing Zach Lavine, some people in my comment section in the past month have said that they want him. However, he is a free agent. He would either have to be signed outright, which would mean renouncing one of Ant or Josh Hart, if I recall correctly. Eric knows the exact details on it, but you're definitely going to have to give up some assets in order to clear the cap space necessary. And if you're sitting there saying, well, we have $60 million of cap space, go watch Eric's video back talking about our $60 million in cap space myth. Jusuf Nurkic has an $18 million roster hold. Anthony Simons has a $12 million roster hold. That is to be able to resign him and go over the cap. Obviously, if you, renounce those guys' roster holds, sure, you can clear $18 million of cap space by renouncing Jusuf Nurkic's roster hold that you can then use on Zach Lavine. But then if you use all your cap space on Zach Lavine and you don't have Jusuf Nurkic's roster hold anymore, you cannot go over the cap to resign him like you could before. So then you can't bring back Jusuf Nurkic in that situation. So in every rumor, you have to consider acquisition cost, and the acquisition cost of getting Zach Lavine would be giving up on at least one of Josh Hart, Anthony Simons, and Jusuf Nurkic. I wish I remembered off the top of my head, but go watch Eric's video. You can actually do the math yourself, which is what I should have done in a spreadsheet. That's what I normally do. You can actually find these things out yourself, and it's not as hard as you would think. But would Zach Lavine make sense for the Portland Trail Blazers? I don't see how he would. He's going to have knee surgery this offseason, okay? Already red flag there. And then you're just kind of running back the same Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum backcourt with Zach Lavine. We need to chase forwards this offseason. I don't really see Zach Lavine being a potential free agent signing. Now, here's the thing. If you also use cap space, you lose all your traded player exceptions. So if the Portland Trail Blazers use a trade player exception on Jeremy Grant, obviously they're adding a bunch of salary, so cap space doesn't make sense. But then the $20.8 million traded player exception counts as $20.8 million against the salary cap. So in order to clear that cap space, you have to renounce that TPE. So there's no way to use the TPE for Jeremy Grant, which is what is expected at this point, and then use cap space for Zach Lavine. The other vehicle to acquire Zach Lavine would be via sign and trade. But the Blazers don't really have tradable contracts. They could trade Bledsoe and Justice Winslow, but that's not enough to get them there. Maybe throw in minimums, and maybe you're close. I forget what bracket Zach Lavine's max contract is in. But in order to get Chicago to agree with that, you're going to have to give up legitimate assets. You're possibly going to have to give up Anthony Simons. You're definitely going to have to give up Nasir Little if you don't give up Anthony Simons. You're going to have to give up some assets, and the Blazers don't have a ton of them. That's why this past trade deadline I was not happy with. Now, going all in from an asset standpoint for Zach Lavine doesn't make sense. Why would we go all in on a starting shooting guard that presents some of the same qualities that CJ McCollum had? Zach Lavine isn't a good defensive player. He's a pretty ball-dominant player. He can play off the ball, but he's a lot like CJ McCollum, and I thought trading CJ McCollum and getting pretty much nothing back other than Josh Hart was so that we could clear a starting spot for Anthony Simons. So why would we trade CJ McCollum and get back pennies on the dollar, then give up more assets to bring in Zach Lavine, and we don't solve our forward spot? I don't understand the logic behind that. The Blazers just need to be content with Dame and Ant being the starting backcourt going into next year, and then do whatever you can to give those guys the best front court possible from the forward positions. That should hopefully be Portland's own draft pick. And then I'm not super high on Jeremy Grant, but that's what I'm expecting next to that. So that's a better plan than just kind of running things back the way they were by giving up a bunch of assets for Zach Lavine. I've never understood that. And is Zach Lavine going to leave Chicago? They had a good year this year. They can continue to build around that core that they have there. I don't see him leaving Chicago anyway. So the logic behind the move for the Portland Trail Blazers doesn't really make sense. So let's just say this was leaked from somewhere and Brian Windhorst heard it from somewhere and didn't just suggest it, because that's always a possibility with certain guys, and you have to look at the way they phrase things. Guys will just come out and say, Portland could be a potential landing spot, and then you hear a rumor that Portland's a potential landing spot. But you got to look at the phrasing. Media and websites and whatnot will try and phrase things in order to grab attention, since that's how they make money. So you definitely have to pay attention to phrasing of certain rumors. But here's what you Blazer fans have to be ready for this offseason, okay? This is a situation in which the Blazers haven't really been in a while, where they reportedly have cap space. Here's what happens when teams have cap space. They get brought up as potential landing spots for every big-time free agent. And I don't think that's coming from Portland's end in this situation, but agents for certain players will try and maximize their market value by leaking that other suitors with potential cap space are interested in their player. And that's what I expect here out of Zach Lavine. I mean, he's probably going to make a max anyway. His knee injury might cloud things a little bit, but I still think he's going to get absolutely paid as much as he can. But we saw it with Miles Bridges, who was a reported potential Portland target earlier this offseason, and it's more questionable whether he gets a max or not. Guys that are free agents are going to be linked to the Portland Trail Blazers. Do not put too much stock into rumors like that, because they could easily be coming out from agents for that player that's trying to drive up their market value, and Portland has $60 million of cap space. So they're able to use that for their client to try and leverage themselves into a better contract somewhere else. So is this rumor a real rumor? No. It's BS. Zach Lavine doesn't make sense for the Portland Trail Blazers. The cap space route in general hasn't made sense for the Portland Trail Blazers. And Portland is going to get leveraged, probably again with a different free agent next time, in order to get that free agent some money. Blazer fans, you haven't had to deal with that in the past because we haven't had free agent money. We haven't had cap space. So I don't blame you if you're not used to this sort of thing happening, but I've seen it in the past with other teams as well. Anyway, we'll have you covered all offseason here at Blazers Uprise to help you parse through the noise, to help you understand what's going on. We will have a draft lottery stream coming up in 6 days, so hopefully you're able to join us for that, and then we will have a draft of free agency stream as well. With that being said, that's a wrap for this video. I'll catch you in tomorrow's video. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.